So let me begin today by officially saying welcome to our 2020 fall series. This is something that I always look forward to because the fall series, these annual series, they always seem to offer so much richness for each of us to mine as we walk through it together. I was thinking about this, and I know that for myself, this is my 18th year of being a part of a series like this within Unity, and I can't begin to start to list all of the transformative experiences that have come into my life as a result of them over the years. And so that's an intention that I set for all of us as in the months leading up to this day when I'm taking some time to finalize the selection of the book and read it myself, begin to prepare my notes and the lessons for our Sunday times together. And so I always want to start this time together with some appreciation and gratitude to a few folks who have helped in that time of preparation. First, I want to give some thanks to Molly DeBell for partnering with me in creating the curriculum that's included in the study guide that was mailed to you. We typically have a few more people on our education team, but towards the end of last year, one person decided to step off. And then earlier this year, after the pandemic had hit, another member moved out of state. And so I'm very grateful to Molly for really doing double the work that she has done in the past. I also want to say thank you and send my appreciation to our fabulous music director, Carol Purcell, for all of the wonderful music that she has found to offer over the coming weeks, just like she does every single week that we are together. And also my thanks to Roland Woodring for the videos that I've told that he has been working on, including our call to worship for this morning, that will accompany some of this music. And I got to say that Carol and Roland, they both have been such a gift as we have been navigating some of the more technical issues of music as it relates to online virtual platforms in which we find ourselves for now. And then lastly, I want to thank our Office and Programs Coordinator, Meg Gray, for her work in receiving all of this information from Molly, from me, and then molding it, formatting it into the actual curriculum booklet that she created. And so, again, it's just such a pleasure to work with and be supported by these folks. So let's take a look at an overview of the series itself. Our series is titled Sabbath, and it is being supported by the book of the same name by its author, Wayne Muller. Now, Wayne is an ordained minister. He's a therapist. He is a leadership mentor and a best-selling author of several books. He graduated from Harvard Divinity School, and he's also the founder of an organization that's called Bread for the Journey. And this is a nonprofit organization that has a network of grassroots philanthropists that support local neighborhood projects through microgrants. And in addition to all of that, Wayne, along with his wife, founded the Institute of the Southwest. And this is an institute that is highly sought after for its training that it offers. Some of the things that it focuses on are helping others bring forth their own natural inherent wisdom that is within them. They work on helping people make or create collaborative successes. They help mold people into the leaders they wish to be, and also try to create sustainable systems. Now, as in years past, there's some materials to support you over these next 7 Sundays. And first and foremost, I hope that everyone has obtained their copy of our book for this year, Sabbath by Wayne Muller. And then, as I mentioned already, there is the curriculum booklet, a little study guide that we created and sent out to you. And also with that was a set of affirmation cards. There's a card for each Sunday, each week, I should say, of the series, where there are some affirmative statements to help support you as you do your own personal work throughout this time together. And then on the flip side of each of the cards is the prayer for the series that we offer during our meditation today. Now, if anybody still has not received a copy of the curriculum and the affirmation cards, please put your name and your address into the chat box, and we'll get one to you as soon as we possibly can. And then lastly, I mentioned last week that we didn't receive a lot of interest in terms of forming our usual small discussion groups this year. It's a little bit more tricky, obviously, because of not being at the campus. But if it's something that you find yourselves wanting to do, wanting to form, just please let me know, and we'll see how best to support you in making that happen. All right, so let's just jump right in. Sabbath. Sabbath, as we will be looking at it, is going to be a practice meant to bring balance to our lives, to establish and practice a healthy balance between work and play, work and rest, to establish balance between what has long become a tremendous emphasis in the outer world placed on success and productivity, a balance between that and that which is the inner longing of our souls, to simply take time to refresh, to renew, to rejuvenate, and to restore that birthright of ours of inner peace, of inner happiness. Now, Wayne Muller refers to this as the rhythm of rest. It is a rhythm of rest. He points out how this rhythm exists as day, turns into night, and night then into morning. That it is present in the changing of the seasons. It is present in the relationship between the masses of land and the tides of the waters. It exists between each inhale and exhale of our breath. It is the rest that exists between each beat of our hearts. And this word balance is an important one to remember, because Sabbath is not to tell us that work is bad, that success should not be one of our goals, that we should just sit around all day, every day, and do absolutely nothing at all in our lives. Muller emphasizes that Sabbath is not spiritually superior to our work. Okay, Sabbath is not spiritually superior to our work. What the practices of Sabbath bring us to is what Muller calls a balance point. A balance point, and he says that it is at this point that, having rested, we do our work with greater ease and joy and bring healing and delight to our endeavors. And so as we consider remembering the Sabbath, and to remember the Sabbath more consistently, let's keep in mind what the phrase "remember the Sabbath" means. Muller offers that it means remember that everything you have received is a blessing. Remember to delight in your life, in the fruits of your labor. Remember to stop and offer thanks for the wonder of it. In this first week of remembering the Sabbath, our focus is simply on the idea of rest itself. Rest. And we're going to look at it from three perspectives. The first will be why it is necessary. The second will be why we might be fearful of it. And the third will be the joyful new beginnings that it can bring. So why is it, do you think, that rest is necessary? And that may sound easy, an easy question, maybe even a silly question, one that we all could probably list a few or more answers in reply to it. What the practice of Sabbath offers us, though, is the nuts and bolts kind of answer that I envision like as an umbrella that sits over top all the individual things that we may have spoken in reply to that question. See, Muller offered a really important insight that he had. He was very sick at the time, and he shared how he always thought that people that he liked gave him energy, and that people that he disliked drained that energy from him. But he wrote, now I see that every act, no matter how pleasure or nourishing, requires effort, consumes oxygen. Every gesture, every thought, every touch uses some life. Now, seriously, how many of us go through our day really conscious of what Muller is saying here? I mean, how many of us plug in the coffee pot and think about how much life was just used? Or when we turn on a light switch, or we give a brief moment of attention to an idea or thought that popped into our minds, or just made that one very brief phone call. To say nothing of everything else that we experience that is much more obvious and much more time consuming, like our jobs, our daily errands, our umpteenth Zoom meeting. And yet Sabbath is calling us to be aware, to be more conscious of how much we quote unquote do and how much we need to balance that with rest. The book uses Jesus as a model of this process. Muller relates the story of Jesus walking through one of the many throngs of people that he did in the course of his life and his teachings. And at one point in this particular story, he stopped cold, looked at his disciples and said, "Who touched me?" And the disciples are like, "What are you talking about? You're walking around hundreds of people. You're being touched all the time." But this one was different because Jesus said, "I could feel power go out of me." Now, if you're familiar with this story, a specific woman had touched Jesus. She had touched the hem of his garment. She was a woman who had gone to where he would be. She was desiring of a healing from an illness, and she felt and believed that would happen if she could just touch the hem of his garment. And in the midst of hundreds of other people, all crowded in and around, Jesus was aware of that one specific touch, and also aware that some of his life had just been used. See, the flow of life in Jesus was something that he was acutely aware of all of the time, and he could feel it moving in and out of him. And he was aware of the balance that was necessary in order for him to continue in his life, doing what he was called to do while he was here. Because so many other times we can find other stories in scripture about he told everybody else, "You stay right here. I'm stepping away. I'm going to step apart from everybody." And he did that in order to be alone, in order to become quiet, to be still, to pray, to listen to the presence of Spirit in him. And it's for us to remember to do that as well. Another answer to the question as to why rest is necessary is because it is good. Rest is good. And we don't have to even leave scripture for that. We just go back a few books to the very first book of the Bible, to Genesis, where fundamental goodness is presumed throughout the creation story. It's in that story that God acts, and then it steps back, it looks, and it rests. And at each step of that process, when Spirit stops and looks back, he says, or it says, it is good. It is good. So remember what Muller reminded us of just a bit earlier, to remember that everything you have received is a blessing. To remember to delight in your life, delight in the fruits of your labor, and to stop and offer thanks for the wonder of it. So as we Sabbath, we're to remember that fundamental goodness of life. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there are people who in their humanity would not fit into a definition of good, perhaps. However, in our times of turning within, of resting, we remember that goodness is the inherent nature of everyone, because everyone was brought forth by an all-good creator. And if we can ignore or set aside what gets all of the attention in the outer, which is usually more of the bad than the good, and just focus in these quiet times of believing in the fundamental goodness of life, then we are going to regularly seek out these times of rest as a means to feel and to see that goodness more and more and more. And more, we'll remember that Jesus never said, "Blessed will be the poor," or blessed will be the meek, or blessed will be those who mourn or persecute you. He said, blessed are. Blessed are, present tense, right here, right now. There is good right here, right now. We just have to step back and rest. And then we come to see it more clearly. We come to know it and believe in it more deeply. See, personally, I do believe that there is a blessing in every moment. And a very wise teacher of mine once helped me figure that out a little bit more by sharing with me, and I embraced it for myself, that the blessing is either one for us to give or it's going to be one for us to receive, and that blessing is good. But I also know, again, just for myself at least, that I don't always live that belief. And I'm pretty sure that there are a few others that struggle with it at times as well. And one of the biggest reasons why that struggle exists is fear. Fear of taking these times of rest. Fear of stopping, of becoming still, of stepping back, and of looking at life. So let me ask you, just in this moment right now, you just keep your answer silently to yourself, do you fear rest? When you bring that word rest into your mind, is there any resistance to it coming up for you? And whatever your answers are, that's your beginning point for today. And here are some reasons why your answers may have been yes, and also reasons to always keep filed in the back of your minds, even if your answers for today were no. The first reason that we may fear rest is that we're afraid that by giving to ourselves, that we are somehow taking away from others. There are people who care with such conviction for other people, but do not have that same conviction when they look in the mirror. We can see this very often, in the medical professions. People who are so engaged in helping others, helping others, and so often reaching places where they're running on empty. But it can happen in other places as well. It can happen in our marriages, our other forms of relationships, in any career that we might choose. We sometimes resist this invitation to rest because there's always another task to do. There's always another person to see. There's always another meeting to attend. And we actually begin to believe that if we take care of ourselves, that it's going to cause someone or something else to suffer. And that's a dangerous place to be. It's dangerous because it could lead us to seeing our jobs, seeing our people in our lives, our relationships, as dreary things, and being present to them as painful obligations rather than times of joyful service and joyful giving to others, to say nothing about the burnout that we'll likely find ourselves in. A second fear of rest is the fear that we can have towards emptiness. When we take that time to stop, to be still, to rest, sometimes we can hear the emptiness. And we can be afraid of that because we're afraid of what we're going to hear, afraid of what we're going to feel. And very often this fear is grounded in how we see our value, how we see our personal worth. And if we feel that we aren't good enough, then we're going to keep ourselves too busy in order to avoid feeling the pain that is very often felt when someone has a very low sense of self-esteem. So we keep doing the tasks. We keep doing more chores. We find more errands to run. And we keep working and finding whatever we can to fill our time, to fill that empty space inside. It's my personal choice of avoidance of emptiness of this kind many years ago was to work nonstop, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. But this it shifts as we look at emptiness as it applies to the practice of Sabbath. Because the emptiness of Sabbath has absolutely nothing to do with our worth. As Muller describes it, he says, all life has emptiness at its core. It is the quiet, hollow reed through which the wind of God blows and makes the music that is our life. I just love that image. Emptiness at our core is a quiet, hollow reed through which the wind of God blows and makes the music that is our life. And so if you have that image in your own mind, it's clear that if we clog the reed with all that busyness, we're blocking Spirit's presence in us, and our song does not get sung. But if we allow ourselves to rest and to empty ourselves of that constant doing, that's when the reed gets clear and our creativity and imagination and talents and gifts can come forth, and they do so with that greater joy and with that greater peace that resides within us. So be not afraid. Be not afraid to allow yourselves to take refuge for a time in your souls. To paraphrase words from Jesus out of Mark's gospel in the second chapter, we are not made for Sabbath. Sabbath was made for us. And with it comes an open-ended invitation for us to experience joyful new beginnings. See, new beginnings are what occur when we allow that old to become integrated within us or released from us. And that can only happen if we give it the necessary time and space that it requires. Only if we discipline ourselves and incorporate rest into our lives on a regular basis. There's a teaching in our reading for this week from the ancient Chinese text, the Tao Te Ching. And it says, who is it that can make muddy water clear? But if allowed to remain still, it will gradually become clear of itself. Clarity does not come forth the more we strive and the more busy we become. In fact, the more we keep going and going and going, the more counterproductive our actions become. Clarity does come forth once we've allowed all the things in our lives to settle in and to find their place when we take time to rest. And a very simplistic example of this for me has often occurred through jigsaw puzzles. See, there are times when I will sometimes sit for very long periods of time in front of a jigsaw puzzle, just trying to find that one piece that goes right there, that one piece that is eluding me. And then I finally realize I have to eat or it's time to go to sleep. So I leave the table, I go cook, or I go to bed. And 9 out of 10 times when I later come back to that puzzle, I immediately see the piece that I was looking for. See, I had come back to that puzzle, having rested my eyes, my mind, having released whatever the frustrations may have been. I came back to it feeling fresh and renewed, and I had immediate clarity. And I had a wonderful new beginning that came forth. See, we may not have been made for Sabbath, but we were made such that we can always be willing to make ourselves available to it. Wayne Muller closes one of the sections of our reading for this week by saying, Sabbath implies a willingness to be surprised by unexpected grace, to partake of those potent moments when creation renews itself, when what is finished inevitably recedes, and the sacred forces of healing astonish us with the unending promise of love and life. And so today, we say yes to the rhythm of rest. We say yes to seeking out and finding our own perfect balance point. And we say, let that astonishment begin. God bless you.